Back to the Future. Could it actually happen with a real time machine?
Building a time machine in your backyard sounds like a joke until you realize Mike Marcum actually did it. He used high-voltage arcs and stolen power transformers to rip a hole in reality right in the middle of Missouri. When he vanished in 1997, many assumed he was gone forever. However, 29 years later, a figure has surfaced that matches his description perfectly, and the state he is in is horrifying. This is not a happy reunion story. It is a dark warning about what happens when you try to break the laws of physics. Reality shatters as Madman Markham resurfaces. The world of the unexplained has seen many strange figures come and go, but few have left a mark as deep as Mike Marcum. Known to his fans as Madman, he was a man who truly believed the future was just a spark away. Back in the mid-90s, he became a household name for anyone listening to late-night radio. He claimed he had discovered a way to make objects disappear using high-voltage electricity. It sounds like science fiction, but this is a key detail because the local power company certainly noticed when their equipment started going missing. Markham was not just a dreamer, he was a man of action, even if that action landed him in a jail cell. After his release, he doubled down on his efforts. He told anyone who would listen that he was on the verge of a breakthrough. Then, in 1997, the calls stopped. The letters stopped. Mike Marcum was gone. For 29 years, his name was whispered in dark corners of the internet as a man who either succeeded in his quest or met a tragic end in his own garage. In the last year, rumors have exploded across social media that Markham has finally reappeared. This is not just a simple story of a man coming home after a long trip. The crazy part is the state people claim to find him in. Witnesses describe a man who looks like he has been through a war that has not happened yet. He is reportedly terrified, babbling about timelines that have collapsed and a future that looks more like a graveyard than a paradise. What most people do not realize is that the horrifying part isn't just that he came back, but what he claims is following him. This isn't just about a man who vanished, it is about the ripples he left in the fabric of our world. People are obsessed with the idea of time travel, but Markham's alleged return suggests that the price of a ticket is your very soul. For starters, the equipment found in his old garage after he vanished was melted into shapes that defied explanation. There was no body, no sign of a struggle, just a smell of ozone that lingered for weeks. Now that he has supposedly stepped back into our reality, the questions are piling up faster than the answers. Is this really the same man who called Art Bell all those years ago? Or is it something else wearing his skin? The story of how a regular guy from Missouri ended up at the center of a temporal nightmare begins with a Jacob's ladder and a lot of nerve. Forbidden machine built in Missouri. Basically, Mike Marcum started out as a young man with a passion for electronics that went far beyond a hobby. He was working in his backyard in the early 90s, trying to create what he called a heat-based time machine. It was a crude setup, using a laser from a compact disc player and a series of high-voltage arcs. He claimed that when he threw a metal screw into the vortex created by these arcs, it would vanish for a few seconds before reappearing a few feet away.
Anyhow, I tossed it in there and the screw disappeared. And then roughly half a second later or so, it reappeared where it would normally be landing.
For most people, that would be enough to call the newspapers. But Markham wanted more. He realized that to move something larger, like a human being, he needed a massive amount of power. This is where things took a turn for the illegal. He could not just plug this machine into a wall outlet without blowing every fuse in town. So, he went out and stole 6 power transformers. These were not small items, they were heavy industrial-grade equipment worth around $35,000. He was caught and arrested in 1995, serving 60 days in jail followed by 5 years of probation. But jail did not slow him down. If anything, it gave him more time to think. When he got out, he became a frequent caller to the famous radio show Coast to Coast AM. He told the host, Art Bell, that he was building a legal version of the machine this time. He was sourcing his parts properly and was within 30 days of completion. The audience was hooked. Thousands of people listened as he described the humming of the transformers and the way the air seemed to shimmer when he turned the machine on. It's not that simple, though, because the physics he was playing with were incredibly dangerous. He was dealing with hundreds of thousands of volts in a residential garage. One slip, one loose wire, and the whole neighborhood could have gone up in flames. But Markham did not care about the risk. He was hands down the most determined inventor the fringe community had ever seen. He believed he had found a loophole in the way the universe works. He talked about creating a localized gravity well that could slip between the seconds of a clock. But as the deadline he set for himself approached, his tone changed. He sounded nervous. He started talking about seeing things in the shadows of his workshop. He mentioned that the air felt thick, like he was moving through water. When the fire department finally arrived at the small house in Bait City, they found a scene that looked like a bomb had gone off from the inside. Cold case of Madman Markham. Nobody expected the disappearance to be so total. In 1997, a massive fire broke out in Markham's garage. By the time the flames were extinguished, the machine was a heap of slag. There was no sign of Mike. The authorities looked for a body, thinking he might have been caught in the blaze, but they found nothing.
The media did pay attention, and the media did, including me, nationally, went on the air and said, Madman is gone. We can't find him.
No bone fragments, no teeth, nothing. It was as if he had never been there at all. For years, the theories ran wild. Some said he had been taken by the government to work on secret projects. Others believed he had successfully jumped and was living in the past or the future. There were even rumors of foul play, suggesting that someone wanted his technology and silenced him to get it. But the most popular theory remained the one he had predicted himself. He had slipped. See, the crazy part is that a few years later, a story began to circulate about a man found in a field in Ohio, hundreds of miles away. This man was supposedly Markham, and he had no idea how he got there. He claimed he had woken up in the dirt with 2 years and 2 months of his life missing. But that story was never fully verified. It was just another piece of the legend that grew every time someone posted about him online. Fast forward to the present day, and the legend has taken a dark turn. People are claiming that the man who reappeared recently isn't just confused, he is horrified. They say he keeps repeating the same date over and over, a date in the future that he claims is the end of everything. This is a key detail because it matches some of the wilder theories about temporal displacement. If he really did jump, he didn't just go for a walk in another year. He became a part of a different reality. And get this, the physical changes reported are even worse. Witnesses say his skin looks like it has been exposed to intense radiation, and his eyes are filled with a kind of terror that you only see in people who have faced certain doom. It's not that simple, though, because there are no official records of him being found by police in 2025 or 2026. The Missouri Highway Patrol has no record of him being found or even being on a missing person list anymore. Yet, the stories persist. On TikTok and Reddit, users share blurry photos of a man they claim is Markham, hiding in plain sight, looking for a way to fix what he broke. The question remains whether the horrifying thing he brought back is an object, a memory, or a terminal warning for us all. Reality behind time travel myths. What most people don't realize is that the physics of what Mike Marcum was trying to do are theoretically possible, but practically impossible with backyard tools. To actually bend time, you'd need more energy than 1,000 power transformers could ever provide. I'm talking about a level of power that would brown out an entire state, not just a neighborhood in Missouri. You'd need exotic matter with negative energy density. This is something I've only seen discussed in the most advanced laboratories, and even then it only exists in tiny microscopic amounts. But that doesn't stop the legend from growing. Markham's tale is a modern myth. It's a story about a lone inventor who dared to touch the sun and got burned. Before I go deeper into the strange reports of his return, I want to remind you to subscribe to Bravo Tango. I'm constantly uncovering stories like this that the mainstream media ignores, so make sure you're with me for the full investigation. The Markham story follows the same patterns as the legends of John Titor or Andrew Carlson. These are figures who appeared out of nowhere with claims of being from another time. Titor turned out to be a complex hoax, and Carlson was a story from a tabloid that people took as gospel. Is Markham any different? The fact that he actually went to jail for stealing those transformers adds a layer of reality that the others lack. He was a man who was willing to lose his freedom for his dream. Whether he's a time traveler or just a man who had a mental break and vanished, the impact of his story is real. It taps into a deep fear and fascination with the unknown. I think we all want to believe that someone out there found a way out of the linear march toward the end, but there are wilder theories that most people are afraid to touch. Some researchers in the fringe community suggest Markham didn't just build a machine, he accidentally tapped into a localized rift in the Earth's magnetic field. They argue that his massive drawing of power wasn't to fuel the machine, but to punch through a thinning veil in reality. There are even rumors that Markham didn't disappear into the future or the past. Instead, some believe he slipped into a non-linear dimension, a place where time doesn't exist at all. If he's there, he's not moving forward or backward. He's just stuck in a single moment, forever. The horrifying reports of his supposed return remind us that even if I could leave this timeline, I might not like where I end up. Local legends in Missouri tell of a man matching Markham's description appearing years later, but he wasn't the same. They say he looked like he'd been through a meat grinder of light. Some claim he was found wandering near his old workshop, his skin covered in strange circular burns that glowed in the dark. He couldn't speak. He could only make a humming sound that matched the frequency of a high-voltage transformer. If you talk to the people who still follow his case, they'll tell you that the most frightening part isn't the machine. It's the idea that he might have been right. If time is a river, Markham tried to build a dam, and it seems the river won. There's even a theory that his arrest was a coordinated effort by a government agency to seize his blueprints before he could do real damage to the timeline. They didn't want him in jail. They wanted his notes. Today, as I look back on his story, I have to ask if I'm looking for a man or a ghost. The legend of Madman Markham will likely continue as long as there are people staring at the stars and wondering what if. But for now, he remains a shadow. He's a man who stepped out of the light and into the dark, leaving us to wonder if he's still out there, somewhere in the seconds between our heartbeats. Subscribe to Bravo Tango to see where this mystery leads next. Do you think a regular man could really crack the secret of time travel in his garage, or is this just a tall tale? If you want more deep dives into the world's greatest mysteries, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel right now.